For the divisional heads, and the deputy chief of police is also at a divisional head, Chair. And we do conduct psychometric assessments, and they were also conducted for Julius Mkonas.
Okay. The evidence that we have is none was conducted.
Chair, I did see that. I think in the chief statement or one of the statements, they did say that.
And you don't address it in your statement because it's quite a serious thing to say, because effectively it says the appointment was the promotion was an irregularity. That's the effect of it, that it was an incomplete process. In fact, let me remind you what Chief Mapiaye said in his evidence. He said, the panel conducted this interview, you scored the candidates, there was the next step, which is a competency assessment, which you've just confirmed would happen. And according to him, once the results are out, then the panel finally makes its determination depending on the results, because the competency result may well say is unsuitable for the position. And that whole step of a competency assessment and further process did not happen. And yet, you wrote and recommended his appointment to the city manager.
Chair, there's so many articulations that the chief made in his statement, and if I didn't address this part, it must have been on different versions that we keep on changing. I should have addressed it. Chief, he even says he's the only appointing officer. I couldn't understand what he says that, because with different documents that the city has, that's not true. In this instance as well, Chair, once we have made this recommendation, the issue of psychometric assessments, it becomes, it's quite a clinical process. Commissioner Baloyi, I think you will know from the psychological point of view that it's quite a sensitive process. When you go there for assessments, the psychometrists there, they tell you, the candidate itself, don't ask HR, don't ask anyone, come back to us. Successful or not successful, once the appointment has been made, you speak to us. That's the first issue. And the second issue, as much as I'll share documents, I think it's one of the documents I was very skeptical to share, because I don't share this document even with council in the council meetings. It's between myself and the psychometrist in the city. I think we've got 3 psychometrists, but I share with one psychometrist because she has to do a talent management and plotting process. So she's the only person who gets this process, this document. I don't know any HOD who can attest and say they've ever seen this document. Nobody sees those documents. And majority of time, it's meant for to identify the gaps and see how you can sort them, and for HODs, even for remuneration purposes. So I don't want to agree when Chief says he expected to see this document.
No, he didn't. I didn't say he said he expected. I said he says that Commissioner Mkwanazi was supposed to undergo an assessment, a competency assessment. That didn't happen. In fact, what he says in his statement, let me read it for you. He says, the HOD, so what he says, at the conclusion of the interviews, both candidates, as is the norm for appointments at that level, were to undertake competency assessments, at the conclusion of which the panel would reconvene and make a final evaluation based on the interview scores and the competency assessment results, and thereafter recommend the successful candidate for appointment. The HOD HR never reconvened, this is paragraph 67, never reconvened the panel for the purpose stated above. And of course, he does say, I have never seen the competency assessment result of either candidate and do not know if either undertook such assessment. I can confirm that the interview panel thus never completed its task and never did it recommend the appointment of any of the two candidates to the post. So first, let me correct myself where I said to you, he never said that he did not see he has not seen the competency assessment results. He does say that. But the more important part is he says you never reconvened, one. And then two, he says the panel would have taken into account the interview scores and the competency assessments, and then on the basis of both, a recommendation would then be made whether to appoint the person to the position or not, and that never happened in this case.
Thank you. We're looking at this document. If you see in this document, there is no first and second choice. There's only one choice, Chair. And if the intention was to recommend both candidates, would normally, sometimes you recommend even 4 to go for assessments, depending for whatever reason, if they scored the same. In this instance, one person is recommended, Julius Mkwanas. There is no second choice. And number two, I'm still reiterating.
In the document, there's no recommendation. Let's represent it properly. All that the document contains is the scores of the candidates. It doesn't say any one of them unless I'm not seeing it.
Chair, this is the
first
document
choice. You say first choice. You say your first choice is Mr. Mkwanas, yes. That's what you say?
Chair, if you read the document from top, it says interview summary and recommendation.
Yes.
Then just before first choice, Chair, it says recommended candidates or applicant's name, okay. Right? Then below that table, then it's, the reason it's there is to ensure that whoever you recommend, let's say they scored the same, you then put them there. Then from the psychometric assessment, you can make a decision that both on these two candidates who got the same, who do you take?
Yes.
In this instance,
and who makes the decision about finally taking into account the psychometric? You've just said you would take into account the psychometric results, right? The competency assessment results, and then you would say we appoint. Who makes that decision?
Chair, the decision is made through this process. This process is concluded, right? Then you say you take the candidates for psychometric assessments. And the reason for that is, I'm saying if there's 2 that's got the same, you can recommend and say, this is your first choice, this is your second choice. And then from the results of the psychometric assessment, then you are able to look at the gaps. But we never reconvene. It's the decision that is made based on this. Appointment is based on this.
So maybe let me ask more directly. If General Mkwanas, Commissioner Mkwanazi, scored 0, I don't know what are the scores of psychometric testing. I think we know from another forum, discussion in other forum, not City of Ekurhuleni, that there is a negative and a positive outcome, and flippantly referred to as pass or fail. Now, if the psychometric assessment of Commissioner Mkwanazi, which you say is known only by you, not the other members of the panel, if it comes back and it's negative, which means it's not supportive of his elevation to this new position, what happens in that case?
We hardly get to a situation. I think the metrics we use in terms of assessment is got basic, advanced, superior, and competent. When you score basic, majority, they are, I've spoken to this matter even at the mayoral level. You do get candidates, even at an HOD level, who score basic. But what we do, we check your strength and we check your weaknesses. And then the reason I transferred this document to the psychometrist lady, she's the one who will then develop your individual development plan so that it's aligned. So we do appoint people out of all those 4 categories. It's
even when they have scored basic.
Yes, it's just that when they score basic, that's where you must force that the IDP, the development plan of that individual must be aligned now with this. If you score competent, you then do your own development plan. We don't
So
focus on it.
whether Commissioner Mkwanazi scored basic, which you say is the lowest, or not, only you would know.
Only
That's
me
what
and
you're
the
saying.
psychometrist will know.
No, I'm saying for purposes
Here,
of
it's me.
recommending
Yes.
a promotion.
Yes,
So we would have to rely on you having been satisfied
yes,
that he should be promoted,
Yes.
whatever the outcome of that score
Yes.
is. Okay, that's fine. So you deny that he never went for an assessment?
Chair, as I say, it's a sensitive document. I can just show you the first page and the second page. That's all I can show you.
And
They
that's the
should-
result of his assessment?
Yes,
Is that what
and
you're
the
saying?
psychometric house, I don't know if they will still have it or they can even release it, but it's really not true. Hence, I'm saying no HOD I give this to. Hence, I didn't even put it in the pack.
Okay, and that is part of the documents before us?
No.
I think it has to be, because serious allegations have been made. We do have a system of redacting the information, but I'm going to ask the evidence leaders to get a copy of that document so that we have it in our records.
Chair, on that, because as I say, we don't share this document even with council, what I normally do, I will share with you the certain pages, not the ones that, for instance, describe the employees' certain assessments, but page one and page two I will share. Also the page, I hope I won't get into trouble on this, and then also the page on the competency.
Ms. Kasheka,
Profile.
let me try and be helpful to cut it short. You will have to provide the full document because allegations have been made that he never underwent the test. Your defense or your answer is it was done, and here we have a record of it. It has to be provided. I think there can be discussion with the evidence leaders about how to handle it, to deal with your sensitivities about it. But you've referred to it in evidence here, so it has to be part of our record.
Chair, it's fine, I will discuss it with the evidence leader that it can be inspected. And then beyond the inspection, if it's really required, then I think going to the psychometric house, it will assist, but their details are also here. Thank you.
All right, I'm happy to leave that there. I do have other unrelated questions. The earlier discussion about extending suspension periods, can you just remind me, Mr. Ngqiza, he was suspended for how long?
I can't remember, Chair.
Did you ever have to extend his suspension?
Yes,
You did?
yes.
Okay. And what was the reason that you extended his suspension?
We were looking at the allegations of the labor
His
relations
qualifications.
cost.
His qualifications.
No, it was the labor relations cost, related cost, labor cost, basically.
Yes.
Yes.
And why couldn't he be at work? And maybe let me first explain that the reason I'm clarifying this for the record is because you did not extend the suspension of Mkwanazi, Commissioner Mkwanazi, even as Chief Mapie responded and said he will interfere with witnesses. You have told us how fearful you became when you were told about him, and you didn't extend his suspension, and yet another employee you suspended, you extended his suspension, and the 3 months, 6 months debate that you were having earlier on, that you were starting, doesn't seem to have been a relevant factor. So maybe just explain what, on the face of it, appears to be an inconsistency and feeds into the suggestion by witnesses that in fact, you were terrorizing and harassing witnesses who wanted to act against Mkhwanazi. And then this is one of the references that you for no reason, no valid reason, extended the suspension of Mr. Ngqiza when it was unnecessary to do that.
Commissioner, can you respond? There's a witness who says I was terrorizing them.
You were part of Dr. Mashazi's scheme to harass witnesses and to harass Ngqiza, Mapiyeye, and Spies. But in this case, we are talking about
I would like to see
Ngqiza.
that, Chair, because I want to refute that.
Yes, you can refute it. I'm putting to you what the complaint is. The complaint is Mr. Ngqiza makes a number of instances where he says that's evidence of you harassing him, sending EMPD vehicles to his family to deliver documents when it was unnecessary. And when he asks, why do they come in 4 vehicles? They say it's Mr. Sheka's instruction that when we come and serve at you, we must bring all the might. We must come in 4 cars. He says that. And then when you sent him your termination letter or something, there were drug enforcement people that came to deliver documents at his house. All of it unnecessary, but meant to intimidate and harass him. That's the sum of his evidence. So,
Thank you, Chair.
So my conversation for now is confined to the extension of his suspension in circumstances where someone else facing far serious charges, who is very close to the city manager, that you say you got scared when they spoke about, you did not extend his suspension.
Yeah, Chair, I'm not sure now if I must complain formally. Initially, when we briefed yesterday, and there was an agreement here that certain allegations would not be, implications won't be dealt with. When I wanted to deal with the issues of Mr. Xolani Ngqiza, I was cut short here. And I did say that it did look bad outside, but I still complied when it was said cut short. That implication, if I'm not mistaken, is a separate implication. And from evidence leader and from the commission yesterday, there was an agreement that we will not deal with that. And it was concerning Commissioner that it was not dealt with, because I really wanted to deal with it.
Okay,
because you are reminding me now of the implications out there.
Let me correct you. You have no agreement with the commissioners about what you will be led on and not. The only thing yesterday that we were told you would not be led on was to do with the tender. You don't have an agreement with us as a panel. Having said that, allegations were made against you. I would expect you to be happy that I'm putting this to you to answer. Because if I don't put it to you to answer, it remains the last word on this. So I'm quite surprised that you would complain when you are being given an opportunity to respond to what a witness has said about you. Absolutely don't understand it. I'm happy to leave it at the accusation. If you don't want to respond to it, I'll leave it at what Mr. Ngqiza said. You can choose which one you want. I can leave it.
Chair, as I said, I was fully prepared to deal with this matter yesterday, and I was told I don't need to focus on it. In terms of that implication, I think he quoted 40-something cars or 86 cars that were taken to his house. And when I give an instruction to be served or request to EMPD to serve, I give to one person, and majority of the time it was Dion. I'll say, Dion, go and assist to serve and come back. In my statement, I said...
Can you please use the surname?
Dion Singh. In my statement, I said, I asked Mr. Ngiza way before that when you are serving, because I'll pick it up when they serve HODs, when they serve juniors, I wouldn't necessarily know how they serve it. And I asked, why are you using police to serve employees? Why don't you use your ER officers? And he then said, ideally, they're supposed to use sheriffs, but it becomes expensive to use sheriffs. That's why he's using EMPD. And the reason being that they can trace employees down. There are employees who run away who don't want to be served. And therefore, I'll never take and say the whole crew must go to somebody's house. There he's bluntly lying. If it happened, it was not by my request. At EMPD, I request majority of the time, the maximum number, of the time of the people who will arrive in my office is 2, maximum. Most of the time it's 1. If they see the address is far or they can't find a person, it would be 2. Let's say you did an intention and then the person gives you run around, they would want to go to. It's not true that I've sent so many cars at Kolani's house. He's just exaggerating. If it happened, I wouldn't know. Maybe he's not exaggerating.
Okay.
On the issue of
Extension.
of the
What was my
extension,
question?
yeah.
Yes.
The
I was
chair,
about to
we've discussed
check.
this.
I was still to check whether you remember what my question was. My question was about the extension.
Extension we've discussed for 2 days.
I'm talking about the extension of NISA. Remember the extension we have discussed is the suspension of Commissioner Mkwanazi, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the extension of Mr. Ngiza's suspension. Because when we were discussing Commissioner Mkwanazi today, the extension of his suspension, you said, well, 3 months, 6 months, the city manager had an option we could have done, it's the end of 3 months, he must go back to work, or we could extend for 6 months. You don't seem to have made the same consideration when it came to Mr. Ngiza. You extended, and that's why I'm asking, why did you treat him differently?
Thank you, Chair. In my response, even yesterday, I've been very consistent in my testimony. Before you didn't have to probe me. I said yesterday, in some instances, we do extend. In some instances, we don't extend. And the reason...
The question is why, no, don't answer generally. Remember,
I'm going to come to Mr. Ngiza.
Yeah, I'm asking a very specific question. I think, take it we know that your prescripts, because we've had that evidence, that you can extend beyond 3 months. We understand that. And take it that we understand that you may call an employee back before the end of the period of suspension because you have completed your investigations. Take that as a given. I'm asking you specifically about Ngiza to try and understand, to make me understand what appears to be different treatment of employees. The one accused of very serious misconduct, his boss says he may interfere with witnesses if he comes back to work, but he's allowed to come back to work. Mr. Ngiza, on the other hand, is not allowed to come back to work. He's extended for another 3 months. Can you just explain? And I was just giving you the context in which my request for an explanation is made. It is the accusation or complaint is this was part of the campaign of harassment of people who are seen to be chasing after Mkwanazi. That's a context in which I would like to understand why you seem to have treated differently.
Chair, I've said earlier on here, if maybe in the beginning, the matter of Mkwanazi was never taken to Dr. Mashaz, maybe we won't be here. I did say that. The matter of Mr. Ngiza was fully managed by myself. Hence, even other matters in other departments are managed by the department. We don't necessarily have this challenge. If there was no interference on instructions that are given, differently from Kwanazi in comparison to anybody else, maybe won't be here. So normally departments, they decide through our guidance to extend or not to extend, depending on the circumstances. So in this particular manner, I was fully involved, and therefore I made that determination. I didn't need to consult anybody. One mistake we're learning from this, probably me and Chief of Police, is when you are given delegations, fully deal with them.
Okay.
Chair, it's highly possible, even if you were, maybe Chief of Police didn't go to the city manager, she might have still heard about it and she would have still intervened. But at least one thing we must learn, when we are given full delegations, run with them
All right.
until you are stopped.
Another question. Why did you become involved in the Chief of Police decision to redeploy Commissioner Mkwanazi when you lifted his suspension? His boss, who we understand is in charge of deployments and promotions and movements in his unit. Why did you become involved with that?
I've said in my testimony from yesterday and today, if you read, I think the first or second sentence of that upliftment, I said it came to my attention. And I said, I meant that I was told by the accounting officer that once more you are not managing, and therefore, why is this happening? Whereas I've made a decision that Mr. Mkwanazi must not be, his suspension is uplifted. Why you are not following this?
Okay, so the city manager instructed you to intervene here and make sure that Commissioner Mkwanazi is returned to his substantive position. Is that how we should understand what you've just said now?
Yes, that's how it happened.
Okay, all right. And then my last question, I think. Yesterday, there are two things, in fact, to it, and I think they are unrelated. I'm going to ask very quickly and hope to get a quick answer. You, yesterday, and in your statement, you say that, I don't have it in front of me, you say something to the effect, we must look at city of Ekurhuleni with a fine eye. You remember you say something like that in your statement. And then in your oral evidence, you said what we have seen or heard is the tip of the iceberg. Now, taking into account our terms of reference, you know what we are investigating, right? Infiltration of criminal syndicates, cartels into law enforcement. What do you say we haven't heard, which makes you say so far what we have heard is the tip of the iceberg?
Chair,
Because, and I ask you not to put you in a spot, but because we are that commission that is tasked to investigate this, and you spoke in different in different terms. You said we should look at this carefully.
Chair, I've made examples, and firstly, I want it to be recorded. In the absence of the risk threat analysis not being taken serious, I don't want you to have escalating statistics here. It will be a very sad situation that by the time the commission is concluded, the statistics of how certain lives are managed out there have increased. But because I've put the issue in the commission, I've said, firstly, there's about 20 to 40 forensic that are not yet brought to the fore. When I said...
And they are relevant to our terms of reference.
Remember, Chair, I said, because others, I don't think they are relevant, I said before I suspended to the OCMOL, that they must look at having perhaps a mirror task team that would look with issues of Ekurhuleni, where they can give every HOD an opportunity to come and raise their challenges. In the absence of those 40 documents and not, forensic reports not being brought to the fore, it's concerning. And people were doing runaround. After doing runaround, I was then ultimately suspended when I keep on pushing that bring these files, let's see them, and where possible, let's close them. There's so many media engagement information that is being shared out there, especially Jeff Wicks and I think News 24, that this commission should be aware of. And because they have not been brought here, Chair, hence I said from the OCMOL, and if they take it up, in fact, I was reprimanded when I said that. They said I'm out of order. If I remember, one councillor said, because I was mentioned in Madlanga, they had to protect me when the Youth League wanted to go and protest against me. So I'm being out of order to say there must be a task team. Those were articulations, those minutes are available where I was reprimanded. And I was trying to assist Ekurhuleni to say, are we always going to have this commission for the institutional reform to happen?
Is the long and short of what you're saying that there are matters that have not yet served before the commission with the witnesses that have come, which are relevant to the terms of reference that the commission should look at? Is that the long and short of what you're saying?
From those that I've seen in the media space, Chair, I think those people that are implicated in those situations, Jeff Wicks brought this and made sure that EMPD or Ekurhuleni is involved. In the others that I mentioned as well, Jeff Wicks was running with it.
Okay.
And the other ones that are not yet mentioned, Chair, I think Mr. Philip Rahwale should be called to come and talk to the commission that these cases that is having, what are they all about, if it needs to be, because I don't know they are talking to the terms of reference. I want that to be reiterated. My ultimate proposal was to say, Ekurhuleni, clean yourself. Reforms, institutional and structural reforms can be done, Chair, and be imposed, but if they're not done by the institution itself, I promise you it's going to be documents that are left and gather dust somewhere. All these departments that are implicated here, all these institutions, at some point they must do their own institutional reforms, systems reforms, structural reforms.
Okay.
And maybe it's something that the commission might make as a decision that says, after 12 months or 6 months, bring back what we have done to change. You'll impose, but I guarantee you, if it's not done by the institution itself, there's little that is going to come with your recommendations on the institutional reforms. That's what I was articulating
Okay.
to the OPMOL. Thank you.
All right, lastly from me, and it comes again from your evidence, you mentioned Mr. Madlanga having met him twice or thrice. I think that's how you started. You said twice or thrice. And then you said one of the times was he had come to you about a woman who had been assaulted or something, to come and speak to you about that. And then there were 2 other instances, and it is the second part that I didn't quite get, because I think you said something about COVID tests or something, if I'm not mistaken. You said something. But I want the second part. So you had the one instance where he came to lay a complaint about a woman who had been assaulted. The other 2 times, what was it about?
The second part, Chair, it was also about an incident, 2 incidents of involving car accidents where a certain senior person, Ekurhuleni, was protected by certain employees of Ekurhuleni, where he said that...
When you say senior person, an MMC,
No, an HOD.
okay?
Where that HOD was then protected by his team, and instead of being tested for drunken driving, he was not tested. But the other person who was on the other car, I think he was highly injured, was then tested. That was the first issue. And that issue...
Is that one of the things that Mr. Madlanga came to see you about?
Yes, then the second issue, he then said that there's decisions that are made by certain individuals in terms of the success or succession plan of the city manager, where certain names were discussed somewhere, and the person that we are proposing, but I wasn't part of that, proposing to be made a city manager, also has a criminal case pending, but it was put under the carpet by this other senior person who also had an accident. And my response to him was, I need proper evidence to this. And then he said, I'm stalling things. He's gonna report us to the public protector. If I'm not mistaken, he even sent me his writing to the public protector. He also wanted the numbers of the spokesperson. It was a lot of things. That's when I then said, I think you're starting to take me for granted, because I guided him and I said, go to the police. Go to the police and speak to the police. HR, it's not a crime prevention or a crime investigation department. We deal with labor relations issues. Then he attacked me. Then that's when I told him where to get off.
Okay. It's quite interesting that he would want to have it, and he has an interest in what the city is planning to do about a city manager. What was his relationship at that time when that conversation about the succession of the city manager? Did he have any relationship with the city, whether business or other form?
I can't recall at that time. I can't recall. As I say, I just dismissed him.
Okay.
I can't recall.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Shek.
Thank you.
Why would he come to head of HR about these issues? What do they have to do with HR?
My suspicion at the time, now that I linked the thing, because if you remember, I said yesterday, I listened tentatively, with full attention of what is this person all about. My own assumption is that he was trying to protect Mr. Mkhonas, in the sense that you guys are dealing with Mr. Mkhonas, but you're not dealing with other people in the city. That's when I told him where to get off, and I said, go and do what you need to do.
And more or less, when was this?
I can't recall the event.
Not the exact month, but just, is it 2023? Is it 2022? Is it?
It was around December 2024, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you.
Not December, sorry, Chair, not December 2024. It could have been around August or September, October. It was before December, because if I listen there, oh God, I hope I'm gonna be protected. And I'm listening there, I said, this guy, I tell him where to get off. After that, he gets arrested. Because he even said to me that I have drones. I'm gonna put cameras in your house and I will know what you're doing. And my response was, you can put them wherever you want, as long as you don't put them inside my house, before I left him. So it won't be December if he was arrested in December, because I said, yeah, he was dealing with me and life dealt with me, but was not involved in his arrest. I never followed it up. Even in the 3 or few occasions I met with him, it was just casual, and then pressing on these issues that I said he must refer to the police.
Mrs. Tlasheka, in paragraph 131
or rather from paragraph 131 onwards, you deal with the vetting question, that is the vetting of members of the EMPD. I do not see you directly dealing or categorically dealing with the issue that was raised by Chief Mapia, I think Commissioner Spies as well, to the effect that, I think mainly Commissioner Spies actually, to the effect that a vetting process, that is the vetting of all the police officers within the municipality, a vetting process was conducted, and that Brigadier or Commissioner Mkwanazi and all the police officers falling under his command refused to be subjected to that process. That is what the testimony of Commissioner Spies said. Are you aware of that?
The way we were looking at the matter, my understanding, they were going to vet everybody. But if I check on the emails, Mr. Mkonazi says the data is obsolete, let's start afresh. But I didn't zoom down to see that indeed it's only his department that doesn't want to be vetted. But I think I saw that.
We actually, in testimony, Commissioner Spies showed us a schedule that actually set out even the results of the vetting process. Some of the crimes referred to being crimes that were committed when the police officers were already within the employ of the municipality. So there is a report, the vetting was actually done. But, so says Commissioner Spies, Commissioner Mkwanazi and everybody falling under his command refused to be subjected to that process. Now, the meeting that you referred to in paragraph 133 of your supplementary statement at page 42. Did that meeting not deal with this subject?
Joy, can I sorry, Commissioner, I think I need to see that.
All right, all right. Your supplementary statement.
Yes.
Paragraph 133 at page 42.
Paragraph?
133, page 42. You say you were invited to a meeting by Chief Mapia. So my question is, did that meeting not discuss the question I've just referred to, the refusal by Commissioner Mkwanazi and all police officers falling under his command to be subjected to the vetting process?
Chair, when I was in that meeting, in one of the meetings, especially this one, I didn't stay long. So if there was a refusal to have that, I could have missed it. But one thing we agreed was that the vetting must happen and is for the whole EMPD. I think that was my understanding. If Mr. Mkwanazi didn't want specifically for his department division to be processed, it's highly possible. Because I remember somebody also said he called Dr. Mashaz, it's just that I'm also tired now, I can't remember everything, and complained. But when that happens, I was not even there. Because if he called Dr. Mashaz, I don't think would have allowed that, maybe he would have still done it.
Just
so
please explain
recall,
what was the call about? Please explain what was the call about?
I saw in one of the statements, Chair, where someone said, while this was being discussed, then Brigadier Mkwanazi, the deputy chief of police, called Dr. Mashaz. And then he said after that, it won't happen. But I can't recall, I don't think I was still in the meeting when that happened. And highly possible it did happen.
That is exactly when Commissioner Mkwanazi was allegedly refusing to be subjected to the vetting process. And he was basically appealing, allegedly, to Dr. Mashazi not to be subjected to that process. In my recollection of the testimony, that was the purpose of the call.
Yes, Chair, as I say, I did see that, but I don't think I was still in the meeting when that happened. I did see in the statements.
Can you tell me why, let me ask this question first. Did you not consider the question of the vetting of the Ekurhuleni police to be a very important subject?
It was a very important subject, Chair. Hence I said,
Why did you say that, but I did not stay long? Why would you not have stayed long for such an important discussion?
I did provide a direction, Chair, and I even said, let's go and seek a legal opinion. So to me, the key issues I wanted to deal with and the understanding of the issues I've dealt with, I provided a direction and the legal opinion was sought. And as I said earlier on, even where I guided them that the letter must be drafted, you must do expungement. So my contribution was done, Chair. I can't recall where I had to go in that particular day, but I gave my full part of that meeting in advising and the way forward. And we did follow up on things that we agreed must be done.
My understanding of the testimony is that the most important issue that in all probability would have been at the top of the discussions was the very issue of the refusal of Commissioner Mkwanazi and his team to be subjected to the vetting process. So the simple point I want to make is that I do not understand that you apparently should not be aware of that. Should have been top of the list. That was the main thing, because on my understanding, everybody else had agreed to the vetting, had been subjected to the vetting, and results had been obtained. And I've referred you to what some of the results were.
Chair,
So
I fully agree
I find
that.
it, find it a bit improbable that you should not be aware, as you suggest you are not, that there was such an issue.
Chair, I think I did speak to it yesterday, that I saw debates happening. What I'm saying, in the meeting, I don't recall.
At which point did you see those debates?
It was on the emails.
Before this meeting?
I'm not sure if it was before or after this meeting, Chair. I think it could have been after this meeting, whereby they were saying that the data is outdated, we must start afresh, and so forth. But in that particular meeting, I could have missed it. I could have missed it. As I say, it could have happened after I left, and I thought I would have put that in my statement.
Let me conclude by making two suggestions to you, two related suggestions. I think I've already made one. One, this vetting issue relating to the alleged refusal of Commissioner Mkwanazi and his team to be subjected to the vetting was in all probability top of the list in the discussion that was to take place. And secondly, it is very strange, I suggest to you, that you should have left the meeting, or you should, as you say, not have stayed long at that meeting when it was to discuss such a serious issue.
Apologies, sir. I did leave capable people. My team was capable. That's why even when Lefu followed up on the legal opinion, I responded there and there and said, thank you for following it up. And we continued with it. Indeed, I should have stayed until the longest time. I would have picked it up if there's a resistance. But I felt that I left a capable team, and indeed, we did follow it up and make sure that we get the legal opinion. I kept on following it up, and issues of Mkwanazi are managed by a senior person who seems to be protecting Mkwanazi. And it's really a pity that we are also seen to be.
Why was there a need for a legal opinion? I don't understand this. All other police officers have been subjected to the vetting process, and that vetting process has revealed criminality, basically. And not only criminality that was there before the police officers were employed, but criminality that was committed when some of the police officers were already employed by the municipality. That's very, very serious. Now, Brigadier Mkhwanazi or Commissioner Mkhwanazi and his team cannot be an outlier, the sort of outlier in respect of which there could not have been similar findings. So the simple point or the simple thing that should have been done was for you to direct Commissioner Mkhwanazi and his team to agree to being subjected to the vetting process. I don't understand what the legal opinion was for.
Chair, we did direct in terms of what needs to be done, and we did say that this vetting process must happen.
At what point? At what point? Because you keep referring to the legal opinion and having left a team that you had confidence in, and then you refer to the legal opinion afterwards. At what point did you direct?
In terms of the emails on that document I shared today, I did explain, Chair, at what point I said they must conduct the process.
At what point would this have been in relation to Chief Mapia's meeting and the opinion? At what point would this direction have been? Because I believe that the direction should have been immediate. If there are allegations that they have refused to subject themselves to the vetting process, the direction should have been immediate. And surely you would remember if you did that or you did not. So it can't require you to find some document or some email to respond to the question.
Chair, we all agreed that this must happen, and it was just the process to follow.
My question is at what point? That's the
Immediately,
question.
Chair, immediately. Hence, after the legal opinion, if you saw, we quickly responded and say, let's embark on this.
So are you saying you only directed after the legal opinion?
No, before that, I said, Chair, they must go and get the issue of the consent. They must draft an expungement. They must go and check the expungement policy, how it goes. They must also categorize them into those different categories. When did you receive a legal opinion? Criminal record. Was it before you were employed or after were you employed? And what was the type of the criminal activity that you were involved on?
Thank you. I will ask the question for the third time. At what point in relation to Chief Mapia's meeting did you give the direction that Commissioner Mkhwanazi and his team should subject themselves to the vetting process? I'm asking it for the first time. For the third time.
Yes, Chair, in that meeting, it was very clear that everybody must be subjected to a criminal record, to the vetting process. And if I recall, they already indicated that...
You are referring to a direction by you, as I understand you. Now you are saying at that meeting it was clear. I'm asking you about your direction. When did you give your direction?
In that meeting, Chair.
At that meeting you gave your direction.
Yes, then I said, Chair, in doing it, let's follow a certain process.
Yes.
That's what I said. So when I'm saying let's get a legal opinion, we all agreeing that it must be done. But there's a way of doing it. Then I said, let's get a legal opinion to see how best to do it. And hence I said, let's have categories. Well, when did you get it and so forth? Because there could be issues of fraud. Okay, I'm lacking a better word of using, I'll use fraud in terms of sometimes a person, when did you get this? Was it before you were appointed or after you were appointed? Number two, what were the reasons for you to get a criminal record? So I've directed in that meeting, Chair, before I leave, that let's do this vetting.
Was it at the point of your direction that Commissioner Mkhwanazi called Dr. Mashazi?
No, I wasn't there, Chair. I wasn't there. As I say, I'm not sure when did he call Dr. Mashaz. But I agree, highly possibly it did happen. In my side, I said everybody must be vetted. All you must do, you must have a consent, and let's check who is due for expungement, and let's also get a consent. That was very clear on it.
That's something quite detailed, you know, and I find it strange that you do not deal with it in your statement, which is also quite detailed on the vetting issue, or do you? The issue of the direction, and whatever else you say accompanied it. You do not say, I gave a direction that Commissioner Mkhwanazi and his team should subject themselves to the vetting process. So I'm saying that's something quite important, something quite crucial. I find it very strange that you do not mention it in your statement.
It's a pity, Chair, that it's not mentioned. As I say, other evidence I thought will be provided orally. And I think I'm trying by all means to show consistency in terms of what roles I would have played. It's something that can be relooked at if there's a need to do that. But I was very clear in supporting that vetting must happen, Chair.
I will just say, I mean, you have a whole lot starting from paragraph 1 of your affidavit right up to the last paragraph, and you have given testimony with regard to all of those issues, except those that Mr. Chaskalson said, perhaps let us keep these for the reasons that he gave. You stated all of that in your affidavit, and you did not say, I will not state any of these because I'm going to testify on them. So I do not understand your response that you did not say this because you are going to give oral testimony on it. I just find it difficult to understand that.
Chair, it wasn't
you may
intentional.
comment if you want to. Yes.
It wasn't intentional, Chair. As I say, as much as you try to have the statement. Remember, my first statement, it was very rushed. I think we didn't sleep that night. And then we had an opportunity when we had Dr. Mashaz's testimony to relook at. Otherwise, I tried my level best to show that I was supporting the process. I could have missed, you right, an important part where I was saying I gave a direction. But I thought through my evidence, Chair, it will indicate that she had an interest on this. Even when I said, oh, okay, we get the legal opinion, thank you. Proceed, let's move.
Thank you,
Thank you, Chair.
Can I just clarify something from this discussion with the Chair? This meeting that you're referring to, did you know at that time, at the time of that meeting, that that Commissioner Mkhwanazi has refused that he and his people that report to him should undergo vetting?
I didn't sense that. I didn't sense that.
So,
Hence,
you were not specifically addressing that issue of Commissioner Mkhwanazi and his people refusing to go for vetting. You were not specifically addressing
I was addressing the issue of everybody that has been identified to have gone, who's supposed to go vetting, and I was saying people must go for vetting.
Yes.
The specifics I can't recall, but
So it wasn't about this issue that the Chair is raising, because there's two things. Everyone is instructed to undergo vetting, right? That's the instruction from Chief Mapia. In response to that, Commissioner Mkhwanazi refuses for him and his team to be vetted. And he's admitted that. He came here and testified that he didn't trust how it was going to be done. That's why he didn't do it. So it's not clear to me from your discussion with the chairperson whether you're saying that meeting that you say you left early, right? Where you specifically, when you said everyone must undergo vetting, this is the procedure, you must get consent forms, were you in that meeting to address specifically the issues that have been raised about Commissioner Mkhwanazi, or you were just speaking generally to everybody?
The way Chief explained it, he said that it's part of their clusteral meeting, police clusteral meeting, that everybody must be vetted. And my response to that was, I agree that everybody must be vetted. And if I recall, they could have done it before with, they were calling them peace officers or whatever, that were supposed to be converted into some MPO positions. And those people were arrested for political reasons years ago. So what I was saying, it was not the first time we had to embark in such a process.
When first did you hear that Commissioner Mkhwanazi has refused to be vetted, him and his people?
In that email where he said everybody must undergo, they don't trust the data, and therefore everyone must restart the process.
So you knew at that time?
I could
from,
sense
from
that.
that email?
Yes, I could sense that there's some resistance. However, it's
No, but
always-
he doesn't say in that email exchange that him and his people are not going to do this. He speaks very generally. He says, the data is old, let's redo it, right? Let's do it. So I'm asking you more specifically, did you ever become aware that Commissioner Mkhwanazi has refused that he and his people, those who reported to him, should be vetted? Did you ever come to know that?
When he had engagements with me, it was the data is old and certain people are being targeted, and I don't know who are those people. And remember, that happens when now we go to OCMOL meetings where this issue continuously being discussed. And I think subsequently, I'm not sure if I testified to that, I even wrote to him and said, this vetting, Chief, must happen. If it doesn't happen, we're gonna be implicated, you know. So I did sense that.
So you did become aware that,
Yes, I think
that he is resisting to undergo vetting.
Yes, when we went to one of the OCMOL meetings, the way he handled himself, I could sense that he's not too passionate to have this thing done. And I don't know.
And
if
wasn't that something that you should take action about to make
I
sure
did.
to make sure it happens? Because
I guided him, Chair. I guided him and said, Chief, please ensure that this vetting takes place. Remember, I think by that time, Chief was not even there when we're getting pressure from OCMOL. That when is this vetting happening? Because the allegation that was out there is that now there's people who have criminal records here.
is
And
there
we're not
a
dealing
reason
with
that
that.
you didn't? Is there a reason that you did not start a process of disciplinary processes for him and whoever else that was refusing to be vetted? When you became aware that Mkhwanazi is not submitting to vetting, instead of the email that you later send and say, Chief, this is what the councillor was talking about, we better do this, otherwise they will come for us, HRNE MPD, there is that email.
Okay.
So I acknowledge you sent that email at some point, but I think the question is something else, which is, that's all you did. Why did you not, because it's such a serious matter, at least to us outsiders, that you have people who are not vetted, some of whom have got criminal records. We have a long report that Commissioner speaks with numbers of people who have cases of rape against them, of assault, and. When you learn that Commissioner Mkhwanazi, in whatever way you learn, and however it was presented to you, when you learn that he's refusing or resisting to be vetted, and that his people be vetted, why do you not institute disciplinary process about it? Because it's a simple matter. The rule says you must be vetted. You've provided guidance that they should be vetted. When you realize it's not happening, why are you not instituting disciplinary proceedings?
Chair, it's in our discussions, and I could have shared it in the emails. I said it's their capability to have that process done. For the whole city, it's done by them. And EMPD is the same people who says to me today intervene, tomorrow don't intervene. And I keep on saying here in the commission, my role is to advise them. They keep on writing to me and tell me Section 64C doesn't allow you to be involved in our space. All I keep on doing for EMPD is to advise them. And I think it has been discussed here through other people's evidence that me and the chief of police were equals. All I can do is to advise. He has demonstrated, even chief of police himself, many times that stop interfering. What I've learned
That's not always correct, though.
I was about to say.
You've lifted the suspension of Mkhwanazi, who is in EMPD. You have told Chief you must return Commissioner Mkhwanazi to his substantive position. So you do get involved with HR matters. So it's not always true that you don't get involved with EMPD human resource issues.
Indeed, Chair, I do get involved, commissioners. And even in this instance, I was fully involved in the sense that I did guide them throughout the process. You know, for them, they take my instructions or it's up to them. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I agree with you, and I think my testimony and evidence is very clear that I do get involved. But you get involved to a space that is not clear. Hence, I said earlier on that one of the communications from Dr. Mashazi to Chief that says, Chief, draft a policy into this confusion. You know, if maybe that policy gets to be realized, it will also assist the city to stop the confusion. And hopefully, by the time everything is sorted, we can also realize the HRBP model so that we have somebody who's fully involved in that department. But I agree with you, I do assist them, I do try to make decisions, but ultimately, they decide what to do or not what to do.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Masheta.
You want to say something?
I'm sorely tempted to take up this issue, but I think it's late in the day and we've gone very far. So I won't, but I do, sorry, I can't resist this. It seems to me that the chronology is very important. The meeting is on 2 April. The opinion is distributed on 5 April. On 5 April, you send a message to SPIS and to Mapiyeye saying, deal with these different categories. That's 5 April 2024. What then happens is not the chief, but Julius Mkhwanazi takes it upon himself to respond to your email and say, no, let's start the process afresh. And then nothing happens for a year. What did you do in a year? And we're not talking just about people who refuse to be vetted. We're also talking about 250 people who have been charged, who've either been convicted of serious offenses or awaiting trial on serious offenses. So there are 250 criminals inside the EMPD, alongside another 210 who refuse to have their fingerprints taken, and in respect of whom there must be a fairly strong presumption that if they did have their fingerprints taken, some bad things would emerge. What did you do for a whole year?
In my email, I said to the chief, if you saw, I didn't necessarily respond to one person, I responded to all of them and said, continue with your process. While you are busy with your process, keep us abreast. And that's the same chief who will say, don't get involved in my space. I do advise. If they want to take my advice, they take it. If they don't want to take my advice, they don't take it. We agree that they have the capacity, the whole city, when they want vetting to be done, it's done by EMPD. I'm not sure how I would have assisted the chief and say, Chief, why are you not doing this? And subsequently to Chief, when these matters were raised, I said to Mr. Mkhwanazi, conclude this process.
No, what you said to Mr. Mkhwanazi was something different. If we go to page 20 6-3. A year previously, literally a whole year previously, to the day, 6 April 2024, he had written saying, we must start this process afresh. There is no communication between you for a whole year. And then on Sunday, April the 6th, 2025, at 10:22 p.m., you forward him your message from a year ago, from Saturday, April the 6th, 2024. And you forward it under a message saying, this is the issue the councillor is referring to. We need to act on this, not because it's a disaster if there are criminals running around in the uniform of the EMPD, but we need to act on this before they use it against HR and EMPD. You weren't worried about criminals in the EMPD. You were worried about some councillor pointing a finger at you and Mr. Mkonazi for doing nothing about the fact that there are criminals in the EMPD.
Chair, I think I did say earlier on that the inference biasness I will accept. And I think I understand that it's based on being on the other side and I'm sitting on the other side. I'm still sticking by my evidence. I did write to them in 6 April, I agreed 2024, and I said, keep me an accounting officer abreast. When this didn't happen, and now it was raised in the OCMOL, to me, the mere fact that it's Sunday, you know, it shows as well that one is not resting. He's looking at matters, despite that it's a Sunday, at 10:22 p.m. You know, it shows you that when they say what things that makes you not to sleep at night, this would be one of them. And if you look now, how things happened is things could have been done better. I agree, and one could have been forced them to do it. When I force them to do, I account. When I don't force them to do anything, I still account. And as I say, Commissioner, we are learning from this, that a policy that integrates all these legislations and systems of delegations will assist. And it was wrong of Mkwanazi and the Chief of Police and not to ensure that this vetting happens. But I'm hoping that that integrated policy will really assist.
But the real question is, what was keeping you up at night? Was it the fact that there were 250 criminals running around in EMPD uniforms? Or was it the fact that someone had discovered that there were 250 criminals in EMPD uniforms and was now taking the issue up and pointing fingers at HR and EMPD for letting it happen? What was keeping you up at night?
It's all of those. It was all of them. It was all of them.
But then why did it take you a whole year before you started getting anxious about the fact that there were 250 criminals in EMPD uniforms?
Some discussions, Chair, they take place in different platforms, and I think I did speak to that. It might look like because the email, the only written evidence now is this email. Others might not appear, but we do have engagement on these things, and we kept on discussing them. And ultimately, it's an EMPD issue, not necessarily it was my issue. I am taking up that I should have known better and I should have owned this process and not leave it to them, especially because they were fighting among themselves.
Thanks. I don't have any further questions.
I think we have reached the end of the testimony. Sorry. Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairperson, the request for an affidavit to do with those that medical report, was anything done about it? Was it addressed to the legal representatives?
No, but it will be.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
There being no application for re-examination, this is the end of the testimony, or is there such an application? Yes, Ms. Magula.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
at this moment, I think there are only two aspects that I would like to re-examine on, or bring an application to re-examine on. It's on the matter of the topic of reverse peace and
Which aspect of his testimony?
just a minute, Mr. Chair. The first one
Yes, yes.
The first one, Mr. Chairperson, it's about the issue of that when Ms. Linda Kasheka testified, she was giving a visionary of what had to happen. So I just request to re-examine her on the aspect that I want her to confirm actually that there was no existing precedent.
No existing?
No
Prescript.
Prescript, yes. No existing prescript to what was happening with especially with the issue of Mr. Spies having had resigned and joined another municipality. Then there was no restriction and there was no prescript about the issue of the medical aid.
So, yes, all right, we'll allow that. And what was the other issue? I think you
And-
said two, yeah.
And the other one is to clarify on his form again that indeed he wrote that when he was resigning, he said he's resigning because of he resigned or he took an early retirement. And if he took an early retirement, is there anything that was preventing him to join another precinct?
All
To
right,
be
please,
re-employed.
please go ahead, thank you.
Do I have to repeat the?
No,
Or-
start with the re-examination.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Kasheka, would you clarify to me, especially about the issue of reverse peace, as I've already testified, you did not have any policy or there was no prescript in Ekurhuleni which prevents the action that was taken by reverse peace?
Thank you, Chair. In terms of I think the memo that was read here today and his exit form, the exit form talks to retirement, resignation, deceased, and abandonment. And it goes further. In his form, he ticked retirement and then he added early with a pen, and he says 60 years. And then again, in his resignation letter, okay, I'm not sure if this was shared with the commission. In his resignation letter, if I may read it, is that he said, early retirement or resignation from employment, please accept this letter as a formal notification that I'm resigning from my position as Deputy Chief of Police, Auxiliary and Support Services with Ekurhuleni Police Department, effective 28 February 2025. This decision comes after 42 years of dedicated service to the law enforcement profession and 33 years to the city, during which I had privilege of contributing to the safety and well-being of our community. I am incredibly grateful for the opportunity and experiences I have gained through my career. I have reached the age of 60.
Sorry, Mrs. Tlasheka. I hope I remember what the question was. I think it was, is there a prescript?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, the question is about the existence of a prescript, Mrs. Tlasheka, not the motivation for taking early retirement.
There is a document that talks to when you take early retirement, and then there will be, you will contribute, the employer will assist you to contribute towards your medical aid until upon death. There is a mayoral or council resolution to that effect.
So that document, does it state as to whether if maybe you get employment somewhere else whilst you are on those benefits, the previous employer will stop its benefits that it has given to you or awarded to you?
Sorry, Chair, I do need to object here because if we're talking about what a hypothetical document says in relation to Ekurhuleni policy and precepts, we need to see the document. Or at the very least, we need to have some description of the document that will enable us to locate it.
Should we proceed on the, let's hear the witnesses answer, Mr. Shaskolsin, and then endeavors should be made to get the document. I think Mrs. Tlasheka would assist in sourcing the document. Your answer to the question?
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yes, Chair, there is a council resolution. I will try and get it through the right channels from Ekurhuleni. And the documents it talks specifically to retired employee, not to employees that have resigned and intend to join another municipality. It just talks about retirement.
And early retirement is defined as retirement.
Yes, I don't have an issue with the early
All right,
retirement,
all
Chair.
right,
Where
all
I said I had an issue is for you to correct.
I'm raising it purely because
Oh.
you refer to resignation and taking up employment elsewhere. That's why I'm just saying early retirement is retirement. Yes, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have nothing further. I think she has clarified it.
Thank you.
Thank
We'll,
Sorry, Mr. Sheka, one last thing I promise. Would you agree with me that if there was a prescript or a policy within Ekurhuleni that said if you are receiving post-retirement medical aid subsidy from the employer and you become employed by somebody else, the subsidy stops. If there was such a policy, then all Ekurhuleni has to do is to enforce its rights in terms of that policy.
Chair, what I said earlier on, or yesterday when I was testifying, was that that policy, it was meant for early retirement or retirement and so forth. I think even the memo that we read today, it mentioned those who qualify. And I said my concern with Rivo Spies is, I've changed and said he intended to mislead here. Because in his resignation, he says, I'm reaching the age of 60 during November 2024. I've decided to pursue early retirement, to dedicate it to my time, you know. And I think the debate we had yesterday was, he can take early retirement today and decide tomorrow to go and work in another municipality. Then I said, it's something that as the city we need to look at, because clearly there is a misconstrued or a misleading situation here. There's two people that I've heard of that have done that thus far. And to avoid it continuing beyond those two people, we have to revise the policy. I think I was very clear in my testimony. And when I said because I've changed my wording and said he has misled the council. I further said the reason that made me to be concerned is that a person could be receiving a what you call this, a benefit that he should not be receiving, Ekurhuleni. If I can go, Chair, even the definition of an early retirement versus a resignation. In early retirement, it's a planned departure often before a standard age requirements, whereby an employer consent and allow access to pension fund benefits with favorable to tax treatment. But on the resignation, my definition I managed to have is that it's a unilateral decision to leave and often...
Again, I'm very sorry, Mrs. Klashega. The question is, if what Mr. Rivo Spies did was against whatever prescriptive there be, would it not be within the municipality's power to exercise his rights against him? That's the question. I think it's an easy yes or no question.
Once the policy has been corrected, I think what I said...
No, now as matters stand at present.
It can be done, Chair, in the sense that if there's a benefit that is happening at Tswane, you can't have a double benefit. I don't think it's fair. And we're spending a lot of money in terms of those post-retirement employer contribution. So it's something that can be looked at. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Sheka, I think in fairness to Commissioner Spies, who's not able to speak for himself because he's now testified, when you say he was misleading, I note that you withdrew your statement that he committed a fraud and corruption. You withdrew that. Now you use different terminology. You say he misled. What misleading are you saying he committed in this case?
I'm saying, Chair, in your resignation letter and in your termination form, you're saying you take early retirement, knowing very well that you are going to another municipality. You know.
Is there a rule, whether rule, law, policy, and I tried to get this with you yesterday, that says on taking early retirement, an employee or a former employee of Ekurhuleni is not allowed to take other employment after having taken early retirement?
Chair, what I've said is Mr. Rivos, he left Ekurhuleni, he's still getting 5,700 every
Yeah,
month.
No, my question.
And he went to
no,
Etshwane immediately
Miss
after
Prashad,
leaving
You're
Ekurhuleni.
repeating what you said yesterday. It doesn't make it any more cogent just because you say it many times. You know that. I'm asking you a straightforward question. Is there a rule, a policy, a law, a collective agreement, whatever, when your council speak of a prescript, is there anything that is written and that is binding that precludes him, not just him, any employee, even the other two that you are referring to, on taking early retirement from assuming employment after that? Is there anything? And I expect your answer to be a no. I do. I expect the answer to be a no, because if there was a prescript, you would have said that yesterday. You would have said it. You would have given me that straight answer now, a second ago when I asked you the same question. So I'm putting to you, and maybe let me reformulate what I'm saying. It might be easier for you. I'm suggesting to you that there is nothing, as matters stand now, there's nothing that precludes any employee of City of Ekurhuleni, and therefore Commissioner Spies, from taking early retirement because they have met the threshold, the age, qualification, and then after that going and working elsewhere. I'm suggesting to you there's no rule that says that cannot be done. Do you disagree with that?
Chair, in terms of I think the Pension Funds Act is very clear that when you retire, what do you do? And I think I conceded to that you can retire at any time when you need to retire, even take early retirement.
And go and work somewhere else?
What my issue is that there's a 5,700.
Okay, no, you're not going to answer. I think you don't want to answer my question. I have put it differently and asked you, am I wrong when I say to you, there is no rule, there is no policy of Ekurhuleni that precluded him and other employees from taking early retirement and then finding employment elsewhere? I'm saying to you, there is nothing that prevents them from doing that. You can say to me, I am wrong, and point out, where is that rule? Where do we find it? Because then the evidence leaders will go and look it up. You're not answering that straightforward suggestion that I'm putting to you. I'm leaving it at you don't want to give a straight answer. And the reason, and I'll suggest to you why you don't want to have a straight answer, you don't want to give a straight answer, it's because you are aggrieved personally. You are aggrieved that Commissioner Spies is getting the benefit that the rules allow him, that your City of Ekurhuleni resolution allows him to get, and then he's employed elsewhere. While enjoying the benefit, he's employed elsewhere. It's a grievance that you have and nothing more.
I don't think at my level I'll say I'm aggrieved, a commissioner. What I will say is a concern where I've seen that there's a risk, a serious risk, where a person highly possible is receiving a benefit twice. You're sitting at Ekurhuleni, we give you 5,700, you might be getting it somewhere. And I said yesterday, my concern, and with this situation, already in his own medical aid scheme, we're spending more than $1 million. There's about 4 or 5 of them where this is happening. And I said, I picked up this as misleading, I've changed my wording, and I said, it's something that the city, we must look at and correct it. I wouldn't call it a grievance, but I will call it that at my level, I should be concerned, taking to cognizance that the country has got high employment rate, Any cent that gets out of Ekurhuleni, it should be useful and gainfully utilized somewhere else. And I
So
would-
he misled City of Ekurhuleni when he exercised the right to early retirement. Because remember you say there's a resolution that allows him to do this, to retire early and to get the benefits. You're saying when he exercised that right, that is the misleading you're talking about. Because I'm trying to understand what you're saying he misled you about.
Yes, when you know you're resigning, you're going somewhere, because you know, let's say for instance, and again, I've said initially that inferences, they tend to be biased because they're based on you subjectively how you perceive and see the matter. I've
So
said-
you're saying your inferences here are biased. You infer he was misleading. Is that what this which you keep repeating about inferences
The
being
notion,
biased?
the notion on my side, based on the documents, that firstly, if we'll allow every person to adjust the document themselves with a pen, I don't think will be correct.
Okay.
So to me, firstly, that is very wrong what he did here. Number two, you are saying you're going to sit at home. I guarantee you, and you're right, I'm saying it's my notion, and it's a concern that if it's not corrected, highly possible, if there was not this issue, you'd have just said, I'm resigning, I'm going somewhere, So it's a concern that I have based on my inferences that they need to be looked at. And before I left the city, I was in a process of revising that particular policy, because if it's not looked at, Chair, we're going to have people that are leaving after 55 and go somewhere else and work, and we keep on bearing the cost unnecessarily.
Okay, so
I want
that's
us to
really,
agree on
that's a
that.
problem of the city. It's not Commissioner Spee's problem. It's a problem of the city that you have a policy that permits people to go to early retirement, get the benefit, and it doesn't say, your policy doesn't say, but you may not be employed elsewhere. So it's not his issue. It's your issue, and an issue that you as HOD should be addressing, not make it the employee's problem. And that's what I'm debating with you, that it seems it is in fact grossly unfair on employees who act in accordance with what your policies allow or do not preclude, and then you come here in front of the public, you accuse them of fraud, corruption, and then you water it down, it becomes they misled the municipality. Fix your policy, you're head of HOD. Change your policy so that it says, if you take early retirement, you may not be employed as well anyway, otherwise we'll take our benefit back. That's a city issue, it's not a space issue.
Chair, through you, I did say that I accept it's a risk that I've identified and that needs to be corrected, because the risk that I've identified that employees now are starting to create this fraud. And I took it
It's not a fraud, no,
apologies
no,
with that word.
Ms. Kwakesha,
Apologies
it's not.
with that word. I think what keeps on confusing me, Chair, is him correcting the form. I think that's why you're not supposed to correct the form to suit what you want. And as I say, if we were to allow that, we all adjust the forms to suit us, it would be wrong. But Chair, I'm changing that the form, it's corrected when it should have been. It was misleading. And the letter as well, it was talking about early retirement.
Ms. Kwakesha, my problem with you is saying he was misleading. It's a very serious statement. I don't know if you appreciate the consequence of what you are saying right now, that he misled his previous employer. I've asked you, point out where he misled, and we shouldn't allow you to say things that are not backed up by your documents. You've told us, council resolution allows people to go on early retirement and to get these benefits, right? You've said that. 2, you haven't pointed out a council resolution or policy or rule that says they may not be employed after that. So you've got a gap. I accept that. You've got a gap it seems, given
Yes.
your view about it. There's a gap, and I'm saying to you, you cannot say, and it's actually wrong and offensive to employees who use a benefit that is given to them by the city without restriction to say they commit a fraud, they commit corruption, they are misleading. That you use the word misleading doesn't make it any less serious. So I'm quarreling with you for that reason, that no employee who takes this benefit, which by law, your law, being a resolution, they are entitled to, which doesn't say they cannot find employment anywhere else, they go and get employment elsewhere. You cannot say that there was any misleading by them. And it's simply wrong for you to do that.
Chair, as I said, we are learning. I will withdraw if I need to withdraw on this in the context of what I've shared with the Commission. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Sheka. I think it's a fair concession that you make. Thank you.
I think we've reached the stage at which we should adjourn until 9:30 on Monday. Let's adjourn.